All praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, HaKadosh, Shalom, brothers and sisters in the truth. Shout out to the men of GMS. Uh, and I was going to go, right into it. And, this is a conversation about the Gentiles and, the identity of and how, like Christian, like religion, and, all that, it has, created um, this complex where this Gentiles that salvation is not for the Israel, that the elect isn't of the other children of Israel, that the remnant isn't of the children of Israel, that the chosen people, the holy nation, isn't the children of Israel, that is for everybody. And all the Gentile nations. So the midst of, there's, I know been so many conversations about this, but this is just, one thing that I've just been, God about the Spirit, reading some of these verses, hearkening to Romans chapter 11, which, a lot of people can kind of, get that, wrong as it relates to kind of just the context of what's happening. Of course, there's a lot of history that needs to be, understood, pursuant to, Maccabees chapter 1, and that, talks about, the Greek captivity, but and then that kind of spreads into fast forward to the Gospels and the other writings by Paul and Peter. So I mean, this content is always richly debated. So but let's end the debate. So starting off in Romans chapter 11, verse 13. I'm gonna read as much as possible. Just just carried by the Spirit and but try to get to the point as quickly as possible. But, for I speak to you Gentiles, Romans chapter 11, verse 13 says, For I speak to you Gentiles, insomuch as I am apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke, to emulation them which are my flesh, he said, are my flesh, his kindred, what is the flesh, his brothers, people, and might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead, the reconciling of the world? We'd love to kind of dig deeper into that in another lesson, but I'm trying to, get you to say the point here. But it says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy, and the root be holy, so are the branches. Okay, and if some of the branches be broken, okay, so if some of the branches be broken off, and thou, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root, and fattest of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bear not the root, but the root thee. That will say then, the branches, okay, were broken off, then I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. And thou standest by faith, be not high minded, but fear. For if God, Yahweh, spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness of the severity of Yahweh, his power on them which fell, severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou also shalt be cut off. It's talking about your works and what you're doing. Just the children of Israel, how we fall off in all these different ages, all these different captivities. We continue to do so. We continue to transgress. And it's like when you transgress, you breaking off of the good tree. You broken off because you off, right? And they also, verse 23, and they also, if they abide not still in a belief, shall be grafted in. For Yahweh, Lord Power, is able to graft them in again. So for God is able to graft them in again, okay? Again means that, right? There was, I would had to be there before to be there again, right? For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery. And this is the ignorance, that is compounded, time and time and again, that has caused a stumbling block. But for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, right? Lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles become men. And we know that these Gentiles, you know, are us, are Israelites that fell off, the broken branches. And so all Israel, 26, shall be saved, as it is written. So it's a totality. So all Israel, not there's no other nations in that. So all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. So we're just as a trying to getting to the point here, just speaking about the Gentiles, right? And the reason, they we are Gentiles in that state is because we were not following the statutes and the commandments and the laws of Yahweh, right? So therefore, it's broken off. But I'm going to travel to a precept in Jeremiah chapter 11. Grab it real quick. And then there's always this conversation about like who are the broken branches, like all this it's the wild it's number one, it's the same species of plant and tree. It's an olive tree, and there's references of Israel being likened to olive tree. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. I think David, um, um, Psalms 52:8 says, "If I'm like a green olive tree in the house of Yahweh, I trust in the mercy of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai forever and ever." Right? So, um, likened to an olive tree. But going back to Jeremiah chapter 11, once again, digging a little deeper into the branches. Um, Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 14 says, "Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up a cry or prayer for them." And this people, who is this people? This people is Israel, you know. Jeremiah, the words of George, verse 1, Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 1, the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord saying, "Hear ye the words of this covenant and speak unto the men of Judah," okay, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So, I mean, speak, that's the people that this message is going to. It's always, important to understand, who messages are going to, who letters are written to, So Jeremiah, for instance, I'm just telling you straight up, like who's he writing to, um, who's he prophesying to, right? That's real quick. Let me get, I think it was James, James chapter 1 verse 1. James, the servant of Yahweh and the Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Once again, you know, this is that's the that's the protagonist in the story here is Israel. They're writing to the same people. You know, that's the focus there, and that's the audience. So it's important just to know, as it's like reading this content, who's the audience. So that which was then is now, pursuant to Ecclesiastes, I think 3:15, and we need to understand how that all relates to each other. But back to the point here. I'm going off a little bit. Um, so the branches is what we're identifying. Like who are the branches? You know, why are they broken off? And this is we're talking about being grafted back in, but we're being grafted back in through faith. Faith in Yahweh Shai, and is giving access back to the Father. So that's the overview of Romans chapter 11, right? But now we're coming to Jeremiah chapter 11, and it's going to dig even deeper, within this prophecy from Jeremiah. And we talked about who the people are, right? So Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 14, "Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up a cry or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble." So he's tired of the disobedience and the ignorance. "What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many?" All these different devices and things that we're following, that's gotten us off what we're sacrificing to daily. Seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many, and the holy flesh is past. What does Exodus 19 say? We're a holy nation, a kingdom of priests. So you over here being lewd with the holy flesh, you know? And the holy flesh is passed from thee when thou doest evil, and then thou rejoices. And it's like being stuck in that iniquity and praising it and thinking it's cool for the culture, you know, or whatever it is. He said, the Lord, Yahweh, called thy name a green olive tree. That which is in us now. It's the same olive tree that's spoken about in Romans chapter 11. Okay? The same olive tree that David said back in Psalms. Right? The Lord, Israel, that's the tree. The Lord, Yahweh, called thy name a green olive tree, fair and goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it. Why is he kindled fire upon it? He's destroying it because of the disobedience. And that's a consequence of disobedience. Right? It's that level of desolation and ruin and death and destruction. Right? So that's the fire. The great tumult, he has kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. Once again, verse 14. Therefore, pray not thou for this people. Who is the people? The people is Israel. That is the audience. Verse 16. The Lord called thy name. He's talking to the people. They call thy name. And this people is the holy nation. The kingdom of priests that in Exodus chapter 19. Same people. Right? The Lord, Yahweh, called thy name a green olive tree, fair and goodly of fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. Branches that are broken, that have become wild and connected to some other ideology or thought or God or whatever it is. The branches are now wild. Faith, you know, faith and deeds, as James talks about in his letter, right? And I think Cedric or Brooks says, return 10 times stronger or 10 times harder. We get grafted back in, and that's through the belief and faith in Yahweh Shai. Grafted back in, so we can be called the sons of the living God. That's the lesson. The branches are us that fell off. That's due to disobedience. But we're in the time period now where we awaken out of that dead state, just like Ezekiel 37, the valley of the dry bones, and we're coming up out of that. As a matter of fact, it's just so I can end it. I'm gonna get let's see here. Book 2, okay? For I knew, Ruth chapter 2, verse 30, for I knew that it would be, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, which we're in that land right now, they shall remember themselves. And what comes with that memory? And they shall know that I am Yahweh their God, you know? For I will give them a heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name and return from their stiff neck. When you return from your stiff neck, return from your wicked deeds, that's how you graft back in. For we shall remember the ways of our fathers with sins before Yahweh. And remembrance, brothers and sisters, Shalom.